afternoon. Thank you, everyone. We're going to start transitioning into our next speaker, Mr. Joseph Olan. Okay.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Felicia.
Good morning. So I wanted to just introduce you to our community and thank you again, Joseph. Joseph is currently a principal at Sacred Heart Catholic School. He began his educational career as a troops to teacher, mentor, and department head. Mr. Olan then transitioned into various roles such as academic coach, academic dean, intern superintendent, and international presenter. Mr. Olan was selected Teacher of the Year at 2 different campuses when he taught in Houston, Texas. Mr. Olan is also a recipient of the Fulbright Distinguished Awards and Teaching Award from 2014 to 2015 by the U.S. Department of State. He spent 5 months in the Republic of Singapore collaborating, facilitating presentations, and giving exemplar lessons. He has also been a guest panelist / presenter at 2 regional global teaching dialogues in Houston, Texas, as well as Columbia, South Carolina, and the Global Teaching Dialogue in Washington, D.C. in 2019. They were both sponsored by the U.S. Department of State. Lastly, during the COVID pandemic, Mr. Olan has been able to present at the Safe at Home Global Virtual Conference and the Education Reimagined Global Symposium. And so we are so honored to have Mr. Joseph Olan join us for today. Next I'll hand it off to Joseph. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would like, let me make sure I share my screen. Could you see my screen? Could you see my screen?
Yes, now I can.
Okay, creating a culture of global thinking. I hope everyone can see the screen as well. Okay, so thank you very much, Kevin, for that. That was a wonderful presentation. I hope I can keep up with you. Here we go. Today we're going to talk about creating a culture of global thinking. So I want everyone that is watching this, I want you to really visualize, what is a globally competent learner? What is a globally competent learner? Today I'm going to talk about global competence, the skills, the competencies, and the behaviors that prepare young people in a globalized world, that help people thrive in this globalized world at different levels and different depths. People are globally competent. Now I want everyone to think about the learning process. Think about the school nearest to you if you are not an educator. If you are an educator, think about the school you're in. What does the learning process looks like? And can you actually talk about this learning process to people in the community? Can you talk about the priorities, the academic initiatives, the vision, and the teaching and learning expectations? And they were to ask you, how do you connect that to global competence? How would you respond? So today I'm going to be talking about a paradigm shift. This paradigm shift is long overdue. We truly need our learners to leave our schools not just ready for college and the military or the workplace if they decide to go to work as soon as they're done graduating. We need our learners to be ready to be globally competent of the world around them. So when they go into the world, they become relational thinkers. What is a relational thinker? A relational thinker is one that values cultural diffusion. And this could enhance the relationship between the activities that they do on a daily basis to their greater purpose in life or to their goals. So relational thinkers is key. Why? Every educator knows, just like every parent, the heart of any great school in this country or any school in the world is based on relationships or relational capital. We always talk about the value of relationships and how that can drive the culture of a school. That could be the turning point between a student receiving poor grades versus high grades, or feeling accepted, feeling valued. Relational thinkers grow in an atmosphere where relational capital is very high. And this is what's key. So let's look at some of these expectations that I'm talking about. As you can see, I have expectations for homeschool, school, and virtual. connecting to the global workplace. Let's really look at this. And if those of you that are non-educators, I really want you to think about your workplace right now. Think about the relationships and what makes work interesting, significant, what makes work stressful and enjoyable. First off, let's start from the beginning. We want our students to be on time virtually or face-to-face in this world of COVID-19 now, depending where you live. But we also have workplace now where you can clock in or sign in online or possibly from home. Let's skip a few down. Social awareness, virtually and or face-to-face. What does this look like in the workplace of today, in the global workplace of today and tomorrow? It's cultural awareness and sensitivity to those around you. You might have coworkers that work in India, that work in China, Australia, Brazil. You're all connected through your company and you work virtually together, work in teams, but you need to be culturally aware and sensitive of one another. Also, you send your children to school and teachers are there to teach technical and academic skills. What does this look like in the workplace? Well, for beginning workers, the workplace expects you to come in already able to apply some of the technical and academic skills. Whether you went to college or you just came out of high school and you're going to the military, you should have some basis, some foundation. That's the whole point of schooling. Let's take it a step further. Comparing 21st century expectations, let's reflect on self-evaluations and processes of learning. Teachers themselves shouldn't be just doing this. Professors in higher education shouldn't just be doing this. Students should be able to reflect to some degree, depending on their grade and age level, and self-evaluate on the process of learning. It's not so much what you learn, but how you'll learn it many of the times. That's key. Because when you go to the workplace, when our students, our children go into the workplace, the 21st century world, they need to strive to improve their efficiency and or effectiveness. If they don't look out for themselves in order to improve themselves through professional development or pick up those skills, even if it's watching a simple YouTube video on how to do a spreadsheet, workplaces will choose someone else to fill that position. Participate in collaborative decision making. Well, this is what our workplace is all about today. Collaboration is essential, but it's not only essential right now, it must be essential across silos or departments. We cannot work in compartmentalized departments anymore. Everyone is interconnected. And most people that do not work in education, they have careers outside of education, they'd understand this much more than our learners of today. We cannot work in silos anymore. We must work across departments in order to make our company not just more valuable, but more effective. Understand and use technology effectively and ethically. Well, in the workplace, you need to adapt and you need to integrate new technologies. New technologies are coming at us at a very fast pace. Let's look at the last one. Show initiative, have integrity, encourage feedback, because in the workplace, we're looking for leaders that know how to leverage their leadership, grow into leaders, and mentor. And this is even true in the military if you'd like to go into the military right after school. So this is simple enough for a student in high school or even middle school to understand. Why are you here in school? What are we doing here in school? Whether it's homeschool, virtual, Montessori, private, magnet, charter, or virtual because of COVID-19. Why are you doing this? We need to prepare you for the global workplace. And the global workplace, if you go to college, you still need all these things, because then when we go to college, that'll just continue enhancing these expectations for the global workplace. So let's move forward. How can we best prepare our children? We can't just put all these expectations out there. We must have some type of blueprint, an academic blueprint. I call this PAVE, as in we're paving the way for children in their future. Would it be easy for those of you that are parents watching this, or for those educators that know all about the school system, would it be great to have a simple one-page document that has your school's priorities, academic initiatives, its vision, and the teaching and learning expectations? Wouldn't that be something that you can share with parents and with learners, and you can truly show everyone? And I'm gonna show you an example in a few slides. Now let's take it a step further. What if companies, what if brochures for the military had something like this? They had the priorities of the company on one page, the initiatives that company is taking, the short-term initiatives, their vision, and the expectations that they wish their employees to have. even mid-level managers, and of course executives. What if they had a one-page document, a blueprint of sort? Wouldn't morale go up? Wouldn't there be a better understanding? Wouldn't, when customers call, if this is a service-based company, if customers call, wouldn't it be easier for them to tell the customer exactly what the company is all about? During a training, wouldn't this be something that everyone in the room can agree on, or they can have great discussions about, or they can make changes when available? But it's simple, it's one page, you move forward. Why did I develop this? Because I wanted to tell people it's not as easy as they think when you want to look at the academic whole of a school or of a district. They have websites, and these things are spread all over the place. On one link, you have the vision. On another link, you might find some of the academic initiatives, but overall, it'd be very difficult. And most educators find it difficult to tell a parent all these things in order, especially all the teaching and learning expectations, because they do change from one year to the next for most. What if you're to add some global competence? What if you're able to add the skills, the competencies, and model the behaviors that you expect young people to thrive in a globalized world? Wouldn't that bring the value of your school and of your district, whether it's in the United States or not? Wouldn't that bring that value? Wouldn't it add value to the community? By aligning with global and community expectations, not only are you truly preparing the learners for the 21st century global workplace, but you're preparing the learners to thrive in their community. Whether they stay in their community or they leave, they're going to add value. Fostering relational capital, as we talked about earlier on the relational thinking. This world, your family, my family, classrooms across America. The relational capital is the basis which unites us. There is strength in numbers, and this is where unity comes in. And that anything can happen when you have strong relational capital. But how do you foster this on a global scale? Through the lens of global competence. One of the handouts that was sent to all participants actually breaks down the 4 domains. Investigate the world, recognize perspectives, communicate ideas, and take actions. When you're globally competent, you don't know everything about the world. You have the tools, though, to interpret everything in the world, to help you interpret, to help you understand, help you value, so you don't judge another person's cultural beliefs. Now, in many workplaces, you might not agree with another person's culture, but if you value and respect their beliefs in a way where it strengthens your workplace is looking for. They're looking for workers that can work in teams, that can create great solutions to problems without worrying about cultural beliefs being in the way, because they know everyone is different. And they know that people who permeate the relational thinker through cultural diffusion will have the easiest time crossing borders, whether it's virtual borders or not. This is our 21st century globalized world. Now, I wanted to show you an example about PAVE. But before I do, our world is changing at a dramatic pace. There are going to be job sets in our future that do not exist today. Most children that are in kindergarten today, they're going to be in job sets that don't exist yet. And of course, many of you are thinking, well, it's going to be probably technology, robotics, automations. There's going to be a lot of different things, obviously, that has to do with technology. But we still need the service industry. We still need other industries that we take for granted to this day. But we need to understand how best to prepare our learners so they can engage not just with each other, but with their customers, with mid-management, so there's no misunderstandings. So let's look at the academic blueprint, the one-page document. But before I do, I want a quick brain break. I want everyone to fill in the blank in their minds, in their inner dialogue. Before you listen to me today, I want you to think about what you thought about global competence, just from what you already know. What would you be willing to try to strengthen a learner's relational thinking to the world and their goals? Remember, relational thinking has to do with the activities of today connected to the greater purpose or your goals of tomorrow. Reflect on the reasoning behind your choice. What are you trying to do? If you're not an educator, but you have a child, or you're an uncle or an aunt, or grandma or grandmother watching this, what are you willing to try to do to help a young person to strengthen their relational thinking? Having the tie, bridging their activities of today to their greater purpose or goals of tomorrow. And the key here is sharing with them the reasoning behind your choice and why you chose that particular aspect to help them. Many times we forget students, they understand at levels we can't fathom it many times in the classroom. It's okay to show them what's behind the curtain of learning, why they have an objective, why are their priorities, what is school culture. Show them what's behind the curtain. When I was an educator in Houston, I was in Houston for 9 years as a teacher. I would actually talk to students about a lesson plan and why do we have an introduction? Why do we have an exit ticket? For those of you that are non-educators, an exit ticket is something you do at the end of your lesson to make sure the students have mastered the objective. My goal was for not students to make hundreds on their assignments. It was to master the objective, the standard. And that's the key. And many learners don't understand. They believe their grades is the key. Having high grades is the key. And that's part of it. But more importantly, it's the proficiency. So let's look at this example. Now, before you look all over the screen, I want to show you, and we're going to start one by one, paving the way. Please look on your left-hand side of the screen where it shows 4 priorities. What if a school, any school, were to have a page like this, where you list your priorities for the school year, whether it's from your central office or just your school because it's a charter, Montessori, or it's a standalone school. Next, the academic initiatives, which are at the bottom in the triangles. Next, your vision, which is at the top. And your teaching and learning expectations, which are throughout. Now, don't pay attention to the squares, the circle, triangles, the arrows. Any one-page academic blueprint that shows overall the academics and the importance and values the school or the districts bring to that school and the children. Wouldn't this be something that parents who are growing their child or the children themselves, the educators, the community business leaders, wouldn't this be great? This would be the face of your school on the academic side. So let's first start off in the top left hand. In the state of Texas, for example, we all have state standards, just like in all states in this country. State standards is what guides our teachers and what you're going to teach the students when it comes to their objectives, what you want them to master. And it's up to the teachers to create the lessons and the activities based off of that. The presentation of lesson could be a variety of different ways, modalities of learning you can show the students. You want authentic engagement. That's a pillar in our country today. That's a big buzzword. We need students engaged. Rigor and relevance, that's also buzzwords. You want students to reach their fullest potential, but you need to relate things to their personal life, like in relational thinking. Okay. Now, look at the middle of this blueprint. Global competence. There's our 4 domains. If we were able to embed this into our presentations of lessons, some aspects every day, and what learning looks like, the tasks that the students would be completing, you would be preparing a student for a globalized world. It seems easy on paper, but if you were to take one step at a time and just start integrating this, infusing this into your presentation of lesson and into the activities you have for the students, your children will become globalized thinkers. Now I want to talk about something that developed in the 1950s through economics and has changed over the years. It's taken off a different definition in psychology as well. It's called utility of value. Utility of value is a reward or outcome of a task that is related to future goals. So a student that does not like math for whatever reason, but they understand the importance of it, this is something where teachers, educators, and parents can really focus on. The utility of value. Don't focus so much. They don't like math, but they know how to do it. They struggle at times. They get the help. They move through, but the whole way through, they just don't like it. Start talking about how it relates to their future goals. Start talking about the relational thinking behind it and how it's going to help them overall in college or in the workplace. Now, as you look to the very right bottom, in bright red, it says data-informed, values-driven. When students leave each grade level, even when they leave college, to different degrees and different depths, because there's all different ages here, teachers and parents should really focus on goal setting. Can the child set their own goals, even if they're small goals, whether it's kindergarten, 7th grade, 12th grade, or even college? Self-evaluation. I have pre-K in my school, and we even have students self-evaluate themselves. Okay, it's very basic, but anybody can do this with children. And as they get older, once they get into the process of self-evaluation, the key is not what you're self-evaluating about yourself so much as just doing the self-evaluations. That helps, and that helps build intrinsic motivation. At the end of the day, intrinsic motivations is what's going to help our learners, our students, and our children become better in the future. Why? Because we need them off dependence. We need them to be intrinsically motivated so they could be the leaders of tomorrow, the doctors in our community, so they can help lead our families when we become too old to take care of ourselves. They can become leaders in all aspects of life, not just academics, non-academics. This map, think about a business now. Think about where you work if you're not non-educator, or those of you that are educators and family members. Don't pay attention to the shapes here, obviously, but think about a business's vision on a one-page document. Think about the priorities they have for this year, for the next short-term priorities. Any initiatives they have. Maybe they're gonna have have an iPad to order from a menu at a new restaurant. They don't have paper menus, and they're going to try these iPads and try to order food and clean them right after because of COVID-19. That's a new initiative for this year. And then their employee expectations. What are the expectations of those employees? Picture everything that's important with the success of the business, with a company, from CEO down to the first day of work for a new employee. A one-page document that everyone can be on board with, everybody understands, there's no miscommunications, anybody can refer back to. This can truly help any organization. And the schools partnered up with businesses in the community, and they have the same. Can you imagine the type of activities, the hands-on activities you can have with your high schoolers or middle schoolers and businesses that wish to come in and do presentations, or students eventually do internships after high school? And they can truly understand what this means. You're paving the way for our learners. You're paving a way for the future workers of our state and of our country. Now, where do we get these skills from? So, as you read different articles and different feeds from these various organizations and companies, there is something that comes hand in hand. And this is the skills and qualities that are most needed. First off, the UN Sustainable Development Goals. These are embedded, the skills and qualities are embedded into these goals. Complex problem solving, creativity, cognitive flexibility, the ability to move from one task to another in your dialogue, okay, more efficiently. You're multitasking, but at a very different level. Well, how do you instill this in students? Well, you start modeling this in the classroom. You could have timed exercises for this. Interpersonal active communication and collaboration. Adapting to new technologies, of course. And one of the greatest ones here that I feel is most important, especially in this day and age, not just for young people, but for everyone, is emotional intelligence. We need people to understand that fostering self-regulation skills and social awareness in the workplace and in schools is crucial. This will strengthen the relationships between workers to get their job done. This will strengthen the relationships between mid-management and the workers, because people's emotions, we know now, have a bigger impact on decision making than anything else. Neuroscience has proven that emotions drives decision making at the most basic level, more so than reason. So what does this mean for global thinking? Okay, by developing a culture of global thinking, not only can you help these students strive and help them become the best version of themselves in the future, you can help them start questioning everything around them at a higher level, not superficially. If we empower our learners, the expectations I showed you earlier, our students will succeed. I say that again, our students will succeed. So what are some strategies? One great strategy are the 5 domains of questions. We know now that all questions, whether in the workplace or in schools, will fall into these particular domains: inquiry, reflection, and also relevance you can put with reflection, checks for understanding, higher order thinking, and of course, something that very few people talk about is the metacognitive processing questions. The questions and steps used in collaborative efforts when it comes to decision making or problem solving. Well, how do we know that this can truly help? We know that this is one of the hallmarks of engagement. Why? Ever since Socrates, we know that great questions produces an atmosphere of great engagement. But how do you know you're really striving to have learners ask the great question? I just answered them. Many teachers that I've worked with will always say, I ask a lot of higher order questions. Well, how do you know? Like, are you keeping track of them? How do you know? I mean, we all want to ask higher order questions. We want to push our students. We want to push them to be the best selves they can be. But how do we know we're doing the job right? And in the workplace, when you're in meetings, non-education, when you're in meetings, the types of questions that are coming at you, are they reflective? Are they checks for understanding? Make sure everyone's on the same page. Are they high order, metacognitive processing if there's a group project? I actually observed a few teachers years ago, 2 years ago to be exact. And I actually went into their classroom and observed them for 1 hour. And I would bucket the questions that they would ask into these domains. I would make tally marks. And that's something that I would hope people would love this strategy and do it. And you would be very surprised at the outcomes. So as an observer, I measured the teacher in their natural academic environment. And I didn't worry about, obviously, the Hawthorne effect, which is one's change in behavior due to being observed. So I would tally marks this by domain. And then I divided the time by the number of questions. To make a long story short, I found out 2 things. 1, teachers ask much more questions than they realize. And 2, they ask mostly checks for understanding in lower level questions in higher order. So what I did is I bucket the domains, I bucket the questions into these domains, and I show the teachers, look how many questions you're actually asking. You're asking more checks for understanding. You're not really asking higher order. Let's look at this. And the teachers would be very surprised, like, you're right. Like, I really thought I was asking a lot of higher order. No, you were not. And they were able to refine and grow from this exercise. So if they were able to watch themselves in a video, they can see the types of questions and the depth of those questions matter most. And in the workplace, when you ask simple questions, they're typically lower level or checks for understanding. But if we really want to drive it higher, let's start asking those questions when people work together in collaborative efforts. Question the steps to their solutions. This is what I feel is key. When you develop a culture of global thinking, the question is also going to be the key. Questioning what's going on around the world, going to a different level, a deeper level. Okay. I also want to talk about 2 other things. How do we know a child is successful in school, and how can we measure that success in the workplace when they leave? One thing that will truly become a part of this is reciprocal determinism by Dr. Bandera. Reciprocal determinism is the social environment around one's person. Many people feel that things around them that happen to them, it's not their fault and they can't change. They don't realize that their own actions and reactions has a cascading effect on their immediate social environment. And in their perception, they feel all the problems are around them regardless of what they do, but they don't understand that they're actually adding and changing their immediate social environment through a cascade of reactions and actions. And this can truly harm a workplace or enhance a workplace, just like a classroom. The second thing is a zone of proximal development by Dr. Vygotsky. This is a very popular theory, learning theory. We know now that people learn best from their peers in schools. That's why we have pair shares and groups and collaborative work and presentations from the students. And we'll let the students once in a while teach a mini lesson to the class in a group. We know now, or in science labs, that peers learn best from each other. So why don't we do this more in the workplace when people begin to work? Pair them up, mentor them. I'm sure many companies do, and I'm sure the military, they have their own way of helping to mentor the soldiers, the Marines or Air Force men. Or the key is people around you can help become your source and your foundation to become better for tomorrow in a globalized world. Now, I wanted to share with you one last thing, global competence, paving the way. How best can we support our learners at home, especially during COVID-19? I want to take time on the process of learning supports, and you did receive this in your email as an attachment. Let's focus on a number here. Focus on praising learners' effort, not ability, as a motivator. Assist learners to understand the purpose. The purpose is sometimes even more important than what is actually being done. And this is especially true like in mathematics and sometimes in science. The purpose sometimes has greater effects, just like in the workplace. If you've been at a company for a while and you have people under you and you have a project given to them, many times if they don't truly understand the purpose or they're not purpose driven, they're just task driven. You just tell them, oh, I got to do it because my boss told me. No. The key is understanding the purpose can help drive efficiency and effectiveness. It can actually strengthen the relationships between coworkers, just like it can in the classroom. Let's look at number 4. I believe this is one of the most important ones here. Blur the lines of success and failure for a growth mindset to develop. And in the workplace, this rings more true than anything else. If you blur the lines of success and failure, in the long run, the relational thinker will truly feel successful. Many learners in the current day we live in with COVID-19, they might not feel very successful because it's harder for them to learn virtually if they're learning virtually. Or they're wearing a mask all day because of COVID-19, or for different reasons. When your world changes around you, just like we talked about reciprocal determinism, your social environment changes, your actions and reactions and the way you think, that takes an immediate effect as well, without the person truly understanding how they're adding or taking away value from their environment. So by blurring the lines of success and failure, showing students that, okay, you weren't as successful on this as you wish to be, but look at what you did do as well. Focus on the keys. There might not be many keys when a student feels they failed or they show a test or an assignment or a task that they know that they could have done better, but focus on their effort, not on ability. By blurring the lines, you truly help students and learners understand that it's not the end of the world, that there can be success, and that success can be later down the line, just like we talked about utility of value. relate the task to their future goals. If they didn't succeed at that task, then relate it. Talk about the purpose. Next, number 7 is I believe is the most important. As an educator, I always felt positive attitudes will succeed. Well, how do you teach this? How do you instill this? You instill this first by modeling. Okay, and this helps parents. Again, these supports are for parents mostly, and this obviously this can help educators. If you help students understand just the power of positivity.
Excuse me, Joseph.
Yes.
Really quickly, were you reading from your presentation or just?
Yes, from the presentation.
Okay, so your screen share stopped.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it stopped like a few slides back, and so people have been asking to see the slides.
Let me share it. Okay, can you see them?
Thank you. We can see them now.
All right, I'm sorry. And if I'm going to go back a few slides just to make sure everyone could, I don't know where they stopped, but how about I'll start. I'll show them this slide.
Okay.
And I do apologize for the technical difficulties. These are the 21st century skills and qualities I was talking about earlier. And these organizations, we synthesize their literature and their different articles. We look online, these skills and qualities are embedded. And there's more. It's not a comprehensive list, but it's my top 10. And many of these are the top ones for many of these organizations. So number 7, I was talking about number 7, positivity, grit. Well, how do you teach them? How do you instill grit and resilience? Well, first steps first. You need to tell them what it is, just what it is and how it can help. Get the very basic level. This isn't going to happen from one day to the next. By just showing learners that positive attitudes you'll be more successful. It'll help you to see that life isn't just based on one bad decision or one bad task that they did not achieve well in. It's an accumulation of all their some decisions, all their tasks. What is their true purpose? What are their goals? Are they driven? This will truly enhance that. As parents and as educators, this is one thing that all students should know about, and is assuming positive intentions. If we can help learners assume positive intentions when they talk to others in the classroom, if they don't like another's idea, or they don't like the conversation, or their partner in the classroom, they like to have a political talk with them, but they don't like their values, beliefs, or who they chose, or who they like to be a political leader. Never, ever degrade them or be condescending. Assume positive intentions. They're there for the conversation. They're there to converse first and foremost, regardless if they're proving their point or not proving their point in their eyes. So this is a different type of mindset, and this leads to global competence. Now, lastly, there's 2 more, but I wish to talk about reflecting. Having students reflect on the processes again, used. Processes are just as important, if not more important in many cases, than actually what is being learned. At this time, I would like to take any questions anyone might have, or if you want to type them off, and Felicia, you can read them to me because I can't see the side, the chat box. There we go.
Okay. Thank you so much, Joseph, for that wonderful presentation. So one of the members asked, how do you think technology will help us better prepare for the future?
Well, first and foremost, let's not look at technology as a way of teaching. Technology, first and foremost, is a tool in a teacher's toolkit or an educator's toolkit. So how will we best use technology? You can best use technology by infusing it in what you want the students to already learn or master in your classroom. Technology can be great. It has all the bells and whistles for many things. It can create a very efficient classroom, especially when it comes to pair shares and group work. But at the end of the day, we're human beings, and we must use technology as a medium and not as a master of teaching up a lesson.
Thank you. Also, I wanted to, okay, so I saw that on the questions it says creating a culture of global thinking in schools post-COVID-19. So throughout that, how have you saw now, or how would you advise teachers to create this culture of global thinking in COVID-19 when some teachers are still in this hybrid where they might be teaching in the classroom, but they're also simultaneously teaching virtually? So how can they continue to create cultural global thinking while trying to teach in this hybrid of instruction?
By focusing on the 4 domains of global competence, I think that'll be best. Why? Because for one's is communicate ideas. So always being able to communicate, creating that atmosphere where the students can not just answer the questions, but ask questions, helping them become mini teachers, you can say, or the shadow of the teacher, showing them that their leadership or the leadership traits that the teacher can help develop, they can actually utilize in a lesson or an assignment where the students, virtual and face-to-face, if they're doing both at the same time, have them teach each other. They can meet on Google Hangouts or on other platforms, or they can take the lead. All you need to do is give them a prompt, okay? They need to take into account different perspectives as well. So when you put them in groups, you put them in teams, the focus of the assignment is great, but they must keep in mind the underlying reason for some assignments is the teacher really wants you to understand and value different perspectives. So using that during this time COVID-19 crisis, that's what's key. Even having an assignment about online and virtual and face-to-face, having students work as, take pro versus cons on both sides and have them do mini presentations that way. What are the pros? What are the cons? And why? The key is not so much the assignment, what they've done, it is the greater purpose at hand that you're trying to have them learn. And of course, those four domains of global competence. And this will be all about taking action. Comparing and contrasting the virtual learner in America to a virtual learner in another country. Try that. What are the differences? In the Republic of Singapore, it's very different right now for secondary as well for primary, depending where you are. They have a centralized system, but they do have some schools doing things differently than other schools because depending on cases of COVID. So there is an array of things. You just have to think outside the box, and that's what's key for a globalized world. People that get ahead in this world, and for the past, since World War II, are the innovative thinkers, the creators. They might not be artists per se, but they can see outside the box, and they can create great conversations with people and talking about things that might move them forward. And I think this is probably the best. This is a stepping stone. And from this, have the students take track, have them decide, just create the parameters and the students will lead the way.
Thank you. And I think another question submitted is just about how, I guess for newer teachers, what methods or steps could they be taking to continue to make sure that they're always thinking about this? Because of course you have to prepare your students for testing, you have to prepare for many things. However, how can they mix the two of making sure that your students are still prepared for whatever tests and assessments, however, you're still kind of honing in on those global thinking skills for your students?
Well, this is why I feel that the academic blueprint or Pave the Way is so important. They can have this blueprint from their department or school. It'll list the school's priorities, their academic initiatives, but it'll also have all of their teaching and learning expectation at the school. If they're a first-year teacher, they need to know all this. So they can see all this on one sheet, some type of academic blueprint. And then they're able to infuse or integrate some aspects of global competence when applicable and where applicable, depending if it's in the presentation of the lesson or in the task by the students. So it's much easier to see the big picture and break it down that way than trying to figure out on your own whether you're lesson planning or not. And when you work in teams, remember, I'm not telling anyone to add to their plate of teaching. I'm just trying to help them integrate this so it becomes easier in the preparation of their learners for the next grade level or for for leaving, for higher education, for the workplace, or for the military. There's nothing being added when you become, you're just changing the mindset of the learner. And you're changing the mindset of families too. And even of administrators at your school, you should take this on. If you create an academic blueprint, most of the things are already done for you. You just have to put them onto one page. And it will be challenging to find everything. Most public school systems and private school systems, they have everything scattered. The vision is obviously very easy to find, but priorities, initiatives, you need to ask, you would have to ask administrators for those for the next year, for the next 2 years. But teaching and learning expectations, you need to have a good grasp of what's going on at your school overall. And then that way, put out one document, put your 4 domains of global competence and all the activities that can enhance those and infuse where you can. That's the beginning. Actually, the beginning, the very first step is the relational capital. Having activities that truly build a relationship between you and your students is essential, just like in any workplace as well. That's the first step. Second step is get one-page academic blueprint. And this will help you pave the way for your children and your students.
Thank you so much for that. Again, Joseph, we are forever grateful for just the knowledge and the wealth of experience that you've had, that you've been able to share with teachers, educators, and just lifelong learners. I think you never stop learning how to create this global thinking, whether you're in a classroom or outside in your own professional field. You're always kind of thinking, how can you challenge the mind and the heart to make sure you're always thinking about the next person to become. So thank you again, Joseph. Again, people, they have the contact information where they can reach you and just kind of stay in touch with you if they'd love to bring you to their schools or their districts, whether that is probably virtually right now. So thank you again.
Thank you. And remember, everyone, educating the mind without educating the heart is no education at all, by Aristotle. Thank you very much for allowing me to share. Everyone have a great, great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.